students to KCS at Home Summer Edition. My name is Lori Cox. I teach 7th grade social studies at Southfield Middle School, and today I will be presenting about the Aztecs during this social studies 7th grade task 3. As you watch the video, we would like to share some pointers to help you better understand the video. One thing you can do is you can turn on closed captions if available. You can adjust the playback speed to slow down the video. You can consider watching short clips, then pause the video and watch again. Or you can ask someone in your home to watch the video with you. Stop frequently, talk to your partner about what you heard and understood. Today we will be discussing the defeat of the Aztec and the Inca Empire. The standard today is we will describe how the Aztec and the Inca Empire were eventually defeated by Spanish conquistadors. Our objective is I can describe how the Aztec and Inca empires were defeated by these Spanish conquistadors. One way we're going to gain some background knowledge on that is we are going to watch a couple video clips.
When Spanish ships landed in Mexico in 1519, the mighty Aztec Empire was at the height of its power. From their capital at Tenochtitlan, the Aztecs controlled much of what is now Mexico and Central America, ruling some 15 million people. Aztec palaces were as vast and sophisticated as any of those in Europe, and their temples rivaled the Egyptian pyramids. But within just 2 years, the mighty Aztec Empire crumbled, and Tenochtitlan lay in ruins after a brutal siege led by Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés. No great ancient civilization ever fell so far, so fast. What happened to the Aztecs? For one thing, they had too many enemies. For years, the Aztecs used brutal force against neighboring tribes and city-states, forcing them to pay costly tributes and hand over victims for the human sacrifices central to the Aztec religion. Cortés turned these people's hatred of the Aztecs to his advantage. Spanish invaders also had superior weapons, plus guns, trained horses and dogs, and fully loaded warships that allowed them to overcome the Aztecs' greater numbers. Ineffective leadership also played a role in the fall of the Aztecs. Their emperor, Montezuma, believed Cortés might be the bearded Aztec god who was prophesied to conquer his people and bring universal peace. Unsure how to confront the Spanish leader, he was captured in 1520 and was later killed, possibly by his own people. His brother Cuitlahuac took over, leading an army that drove the Spaniards from Tenochtitlan. But the Aztecs then confronted another powerful enemy, smallpox. Brought aboard Spanish ships, the disease decimated the Aztec population, killing the new emperor and thousands of others. With the help of several thousand Indians, including Texcacans, Chalca, and Tepanec, Cortés and his Spanish force besieged Tenochtitlan, cutting off the city's water and food supplies. Despite a fierce resistance, the Aztec city fell on August 13, 1521. More than 200,000 people died in the struggle. With the Aztec Empire effectively destroyed, Cortés became governor and captain general of New Spain in 1522. Under Spanish rule, Mexico City rose from the ruins of Tenochtitlan, and Christianity spread throughout the region, replacing the temples and traditions of a once great ancient civilization.
Now that we have some background on the Aztec civilization, we are going to explore some more information to answer our key question today. So we are going to use the document camera to look at an article that you had in your task packet or online as you work. So today our focus question: describe how the Aztec Empire was defeated by the Spanish / by Cortés. Now if you've got a highlighter, you can use a highlighter, or if you just have a pen, you can underline. And what we are going to be searching for today is we are looking for evidence to support our answer. So we're going to be looking for evidence to describe how the Aztec Empire was defeated by the Spanish or Cortez. So let's start by reading paragraph 1. Tenochtitlan was founded in 1325 AD by a wandering tribe of hunters and gatherers on islands in Lake Texcoco, near the present site of Mexico City. In only 1 century, the civilization grew into the Aztec Empire, largely because of its advanced systems of agriculture. The empire came to dominate central Mexico and by the ascendance of Montezuma II in 1502. At the time, the empire was held together primarily by the Aztec military strength, and Montezuma II set about to establish a government system. Now, if we're looking for evidence, in that paragraph, did I see anything that described how the Aztec Empire was defeated? I did not. So I moved to the next paragraph, which is conquistadors. Cortez, a conquistador from Spain, visited the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula in March 1519 and landed at Tabasco in Mexico's Bay in Campeche with 500 soldiers, 100 sailors, and 16 horses. There he won over local Indians, gaining their trust and friendship, and developed many allies who were enemies of the Aztec people. Now, we do get a little bit of evidence in this because we see that he won over local Indians, gaining their trust and friendship, and developed many allies who were enemies of the Aztec people. So one piece of evidence we've already found is he developed allies. Against the Aztecs. Let's continue and see if we can't find more evidence to support us when we answer this question in a paragraph. Conquistadors Cortez and the Aztec collide. Meanwhile, at Veracruz, Cortez trained his army and then burned his ships to ensure loyalty to his plans for the conquest. Having learned of political strife in the Aztec Empire, Cortez led his force into Mexico's interior. On the way to Tenochtitlan, he clashed with local Indians, but many of these people, including the nation of Tlaxcala, became his allies after learning of his plan to conquer the hated Aztec rulers. Hearing of this approach of Cortez, with his frightful horses and sophisticated weapons, Montezuma II tried to buy him off, but Cortez wouldn't be dissuaded. On November 8, 1519, the Spaniards and their Tezcatlipoca warriors were allowed to enter Tenochtitlan unopposed. So once again, we see that he created allies of neighboring tribes to conquer their hated Aztec ruler enemies. So once again, we see that they are developing those allies. Montezuma suspected him of being divine and voids of the god Quetzalcoatl, who was prophesied to return from the east in a one-reed year, which was 1519 in the Aztec calendar. The Spaniards were greeted with great honor, and Cortez seized the opportunity, taking Montezuma hostage so that he might govern the empire through him. So we see that he takes advantage of an opportunity, because since they were greeted with honor, they seized the opportunity to take him hostage and govern the empire through him. So Another piece of evidence I can do is he used Aztec beliefs to help him defeat the Aztecs. Okay, and then for our last paragraph. Another aid in the defense of the Aztecs was the introduction of a new disease known as smallpox. Aztec natives didn't have any natural immunities to the disease. As a result, it killed out thousands and weakened many, giving Spanish conquistadors an advantage over the Aztecs. As a result, Cortez overthrew the wealthy Aztec Empire, claiming it in honor of the Spanish king. This wealth and prosperity would increase their thirst for exploration throughout Europe. So another piece of evidence that I can highlight is what aided to their defense or defeat was the introduction of a new disease called smallpox. Okay, so for my evidence piece, I can say diseases such as smallpox weakened the Aztecs against the Spanish. So as you go into your next section with Miss McLeod from Cedar Bluff Middle School, you're going to have some evidence to answer the questions that she's going to present for you. It was wonderful getting to spend this time with you, and I hope you learned a little more about the Aztecs and their defeat than you knew before.
Hi everyone, my name's Carla McLeod. I teach 7th grade social studies at Cedar Bluff Middle School. Miss Lori Cox just told you a little bit about the Aztecs. Now I'd like to tell you something about the Incas. What I'd like to do first is show you a short video clip about the defeat of the Incas.
They were the most powerful people in South America, and richer even than the Aztecs. They were the Inca. In 1531, a Spaniard named Francisco Pizarro set out to conquer the mighty Inca, one of the greatest civilizations on earth. Driven by his greed for gold, this uneducated Spanish soldier led an army of just 168 men against an empire of 20 million. The year was 1527. A Spanish ship off the coast of Peru intercepted a raft filled with fine textiles, silver, and gold. To Francisco Pizarro, the captain of the ship, this floating treasure chest was a sign. The mythical city of gold called El Dorado must exist. Setting down on the coast of Peru, Pizarro had no idea what he was about to go up against. The Inca Empire stretched 3,000 miles through the length of the Andes mountain range, covering parts of present-day Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile. The empire had been forged by a man called Earthshaker, who marched through the Andes in 1438, conquering all the Inca's rivals. In less than 100 years, culminating in the rule of Huayna Capac, Inca armies had conquered half of South America, absorbing 20 million people into their empire. Had Pizarro known the Inca armies numbered 100,000, he might have thought twice. The Incas were not just warriors. They had built a sophisticated network of roads more than 14,000 miles long. They had fortified cities in every corner of the empire. vibrant economy based on agriculture. They were a devout people, practicing a religion based on sun worship. The rich Inca economy operated without money or writing. They communicated by a system of knotted cords called quipos, carried by swift messengers who linked every region to the imperial capital, Cuzco. About the time of Pizarro's chance discovery of the gold-laden raft, the Inca messengers were relaying tragic news. The Emperor Huayna Capac was dead. Two rivals claimed the Inca throne. Pizarro would arrive just in time to exploit the power struggle. In addition to the civil war going on, smallpox, brought to Mexico by Spaniards, had swept across the continent. Half the empire's population had been wiped out by the contagious disease. Fighting for control of the weakened empire were the previous emperor's son, Huascar, and his half-brother, Atahualpa. Atahualpa triumphed, but his victory would be short-lived. Climbing from the coast high into the Andes, Francisco Pizarro and his 168 men marched into the heart of the war and disease-torn Inca Empire in 1532. The Incas had never seen horses before, and many were very afraid, but Atahualpa was unimpressed. The emperor and 8,000 of his men went to meet Pizarro, unarmed. What they didn't know was that Pizarro was plotting a bold military gamble. When Atahualpa and his men arrived, the Spaniards ambushed them. It was a brutal massacre. 8,000 unarmed Inca were killed by 168 Spaniards. The Emperor Atahualpa was taken prisoner. Over the next few weeks, the situation grew tense. An army of 80,000 Inca soldiers waited for the order to attack, but Atahualpa never gave it, for fear he would be killed. The emperor tried to buy his way out of trouble. He promised Pizarro 3 rooms full of gold and silver in exchange for his freedom. When the precious metal began pouring in, the treasure only made the Spaniards want more. Pizarro's men raided Inca cities and their temples, stealing religious icons made of gold and silver. All told, the Spaniards melted down 30 tons of Inca artifacts. Having served his purpose, Atahualpa was executed by the Spaniards in July of 1533. Pizarro feared the emperor's army would now attack. But when news of Atahualpa's death spread across the empire, the Inca's enemies were thrilled. Tribes from the south, hoping to gain control of the whole empire, pledged their support to Pizarro. Pizarro crowned Tupac Hualpa emperor to pacify the Incas, though Pizarro was really in charge. Then, in November of 1533, Pizarro marched 750 miles south and occupied the imperial capital, Cuzco. His fortune made, Pizarro would continue to build new Spanish cities throughout the former Inca Empire, including the new Spanish capital, Lima. But luck would finally run out for the man who overthrew an empire with a handful of men. Pizarro was killed in Lima just a few short years after founding his glorious new capital.
Okay, well, I hope you learned some stuff about the Incas from watching this video. Next, we're going to take a look at a text about the Incas. Now I'd like to share with you the Incas background, which is part of your text that you received in your packet or you printed from online. Or you can just follow along with me. I've put the text in Google Slides. The Incas background. The Inca first appeared in the Andes region during the 12th century AD and gradually built a massive kingdom through the military strength of their emperors. The Inca states spanned the distance of northern Ecuador to central Chile and consisted of 12 million inhabitants from more than 100 different ethnic groups at its peak. Well-devised agricultural and roadway systems, along with a centralized religion and language, helped maintain a cohesive state. Francisco Pizarro background. Francisco Pizarro was an explorer, soldier, and conquistador. He was born around 1474 in Trujillo, Spain. As a soldier, he served on the 1513 expedition of Vasco Núñez de Balboa, during which he discovered the Pacific Ocean. Francisco Pizarro traps Incan Emperor Atahualpa. Pizarro's timing for conquest was perfect. By 1532, the Inca Empire was embroiled in a civil war that had decimated the population and divided the people's loyalties. Atahualpa, the younger brother of the former Inca ruler, had just deposed his half-brother Huáscar and was in the midst of reuniting his kingdom when Pizarro arrived again in 1531. On his way to the Inca capital, Pizarro learned of the war and began recruiting soldiers still loyal to Huáscar. Pizarro met Atahualpa just outside a small Inca town in the valley of the Andes. Sending his brother Hernan as an envoy, Pizarro invited Atahualpa for a feast in honor of Atahualpa's claim to the throne. Though he had nearly 80,000 soldiers with him in the mountains, Atahualpa attended the feast with only 5,000 unarmed men. He was met by Vincent de Valverde, a friar traveling with Pizarro. When Pizarro's men lay in wait, Valverde urged Atahualpa to convert to Christianity. Atahualpa angrily refused, prompting Valverde to give the signal for Pizarro to open fire. Trapped, the panicking Inca soldiers made easy prey for the Spanish. Pizarro's men slaughtered 5,000 Incas in just an hour. Pizarro himself suffered the only Spanish injury, a cut on his hand sustained as he saved Atahualpa from death. Realizing Atahualpa was initially more valuable alive than dead, Pizarro kept the emperor in captivity while he made plans to take over his empire. In response, Atahualpa offered Pizarro a roomful of gold and silver in exchange for his freedom. Pizarro consented, but after receiving the ransom, Pizarro brought Atahualpa up on charges of starting a rebellion. By that time, Atahualpa had played his part in pacifying the Incas while Pizarro secured his power, and Pizarro considered him disposable. Atahualpa was to be burned at the stake, but at the last moment Valverde offered the emperor freedom if he would convert. Atahualpa submitted only to be executed by strangulation. The day was August 29th, 1533. Okay, now it's time for our task. I know earlier when you did the Aztec reading, Miss Lori Cox showed you how to pull apart and annotate your text. So what I like to do now is to look at our task, and I'm going to show you how to restate the question to help you better answer the questions. So the task says, answer 2 questions below in a paragraph, 3 to 6 sentences, using evidence from the text to support how the Spanish defeated each empire. Okay, number 1 says, describe how the Aztec was defeated by the Spanish and Cortez, and 2 says, describe how the Inca Empire was defeated by the Spanish and Pizarro. Okay, so restating your answer. So once you have annotated your text and you've looked back at the question again, you could restate your answer. Here's a way that I would choose to restate them. Number 1 says the Aztec Empire was defeated by the Spanish when, and then you can look back at the text and decide what actions happened to answer that question. The same with the next one. The Inca Empire was defeated by the Spanish when. You can look back at your text and see what occurred to complete this statement. So that's just an easy way of answering the question to make sure that you're staying on topic and answering them correctly. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson about the Aztec and the Inca. We gathered a lot of our text from history.com. That's another great source to look at if you're interested in this topic. I hope you have an amazing rest of your summer. Thanks.